Hola a todos los oyentes de nuestra comunidad Metrópoli.
Welcome to our podcast, Metrópoli. Our guest is Dror Poleg. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, I used to be in real estate development and private equity, real estate investment all over the world. And over the last 10 years, I've been researching the impact of technology on buildings and cities. And I wrote a book called Rethinking Real Estate. And I travel the world and help large investors understand the latest trends that are impacting our cities, offices, homes, shops, warehouses, and the built world.
Okay, would you think, Mr. Poleg, that the remote work will limit innovation?
No, I think that a lot of real estate people like to think that.
Okay.
And of course, they have an interest to want everyone to come back to the office. But also, I think a lot of real estate companies really work in a more traditional way. So for them, they're more productive when they're at the office. But what we see in the technology industry and more innovative sectors is that actually some of the most innovative companies are embracing more flexibility and more remote work. One, because they have to hire the most talented people, and there's a lot of competition, so they have to be flexible and do what the employees are asking for. And second, they have to hire from a bigger pool of candidates because they have very specific requirements, and to find the right person for the job, sometimes even the biggest city doesn't have the ideal person. But if you hire from a larger area, you have more opportunity to find the right person. So we see already that a lot of very innovative companies like NVIDIA or Meta, Facebook, or others are embracing more remote work to different levels.
That's awesome. And these new trends and this transformation will have a deep impact on our cities.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that these new trends and these new technologies will transform the shape of our cities?
Yes. So technology always reshapes cities. I mean, we saw over the last few hundred years, every new innovation, whether it's like steamboats, so they move cities closer to the ports and they change their shapes, and then the trains reshape them, and the automobile, of course, spreads them more wide. And more importantly, industrial work made cities very organized, very linear. Like, this is where the factories are, this is where people live, this is where the shopping is. And offices, they're very different from factories, but they kind of continued with the same approach. So in a lot of our cities, we have zoning laws that say, okay, here we will have only offices and here we will have only houses, and they don't have a lot of mixing. And I think now with remote and flexible work, cities are going to be a little bit more like they were maybe 200 years ago, like much more mixing of housing and office and retail, and also much more change and less the kind of rigid division that we had before. So I think it's good news for cities. Cities will remain very important. And I think we see it now, even in the US, when people can live anywhere, especially people with good jobs, they actually want to live in the best cities. Many people are moving to New York now, even though they can work from anywhere. But because they can work from anywhere, finally they can go to live in New York, because they always wanted to live there. And before, maybe they lived in San Francisco or somewhere else. So the cities that offer the unique things that only cities can offer are going to be attractive.
Okay.
And these unique things, like walkability and good public transport and culture and green spaces and safety, and every city with whatever is unique about it. In Bogota, you have the nature and the environment around it and the connection to other cities in the region. Some cities have a beach, some cities have a good theater, whatever it is. I think cities have to emphasize more the things that make them unique, and not assume that everybody has to go to the office, so they'll just live here because they have no choice.
Okay. And what are those big technological changes that will come to the real estate environment, that will enforce all these changes and these transformations?
Yeah. So real estate people like to think most of the time about technology for real estate. So like, what can I install in my building, or how can I use different material? This is all very important, but I think the biggest impact will be from technologies that are not for real estate, but for other things. So that, for example, artificial intelligence, if it reduces the number of people that work in certain industries, that's going to have a huge impact on real estate. If we have flying cars and drones and new ways to deliver things or move people around, that's going to have a huge impact on where people live and how they commute to the office and the shape of the city. So I think these trends are more important than the little things. But the little things are important also. So I think it's important for real estate developers and operators to embrace technology, to try different things, continue to learn.
And finally, what could the real estate companies and construction companies do in terms of big strategic lines, or in terms of renewing this kind of view that the people has for them?
I think since customers now have more choice where to live, it means that buildings have to start thinking more like consumer products and consumer brands. Just like you buy cosmetics or a phone, the company doesn't assume that you will just buy it just because it's there. With buildings, we just build it and we say, oh, my building is here, everybody will come and pay me. I think you have to start thinking more specifically about who are my customers, what are their problems, what is important to them, what is not important to them, and build a product, design it in a way that focuses on specific groups of people. So a little bit, hotels already do it. Hotels are very different from each other. There's hotels for families, hotels for business people traveling alone, hotels for more expensive, less expensive, exercise, no exercise. I think in apartments and offices, we will start to see more segmentation and branding like that. And by branding, I don't just mean, put some logo on your building, but it's really about what you know how to do as a company, the kind of services that you offer, the kind of systems that you build, what you invest in, what you don't invest in. So I think there's going to be a lot of change from that perspective in the industry.
Real estate industry will have to go further than just the location issues.
Yeah. So I think WeWork is a great example, even though it didn't succeed financially. It built a good brand, it developed some technology, it has a product that is very specific. Some people love it and many people hate it and think that it's stupid, but this is a sign that they're doing something right, actually. A good brand like iPhone, I would pay a lot of money for my iPhone, and my mother would look at it and say, oh, you're an idiot, why you pay so much for an iPhone? My phone, I have another phone and it does the same thing. So I think in real estate, we will have to get to the same place where there's different products for different people. And I think in the end, it will be good for the individuals, for society. If there's more, if the people who build and design our buildings think about their customers a little more, it's better for the world.
It will allow to bring back a lot of young talent
that too.
to the industry.
If you make it interesting, if you bring innovation, and if you connect it to all the problems that we have the power to influence, like, allowing people to access better jobs and to have healthier lives and to have more friends nearby in a nice community and to walk more and be healthy and to live in more sustainable buildings and because you create economic opportunity, maybe help reduce inequality or at least help people have the chance of moving up more easily. We can make the world a better place, but we can also attract more good people to the industry because they will be excited about what we are doing. They will think, okay, here I'm really in tech, in Silicon Valley, every company thinks they are changing the world. And in real estate, we don't feel that we are, even though we probably have more impact on the world than most of the apps that people have on their phones. And I think we have to kind of lean in more into this message and to understand our responsibility and also the opportunity that we have.
Okay, Mr. Poleg, what are your impressions about Bogotá and Colombia?
One, I'm amazed that so many people can live so high up in the mountains.
Okay.
And that it works, that they're eating and they're safe and they're driving around and going to work. And I think you know it better than I do. It's a city full of so many different parts and different contradictions and rich parts and poor parts and things that work and things that can be better. But overall, I think I see here many of the same challenges that you see all over the world, both in like New York and London and also in developing countries, in the Middle East or in Asia. They're all kind of dealing with the same challenges: how to provide more affordable housing, how to allow people to access jobs and economic opportunity more easily, how to have more efficient public transportation, how to reduce pollution and deal with climate change and the different challenges that they have. So it was a wonderful visit. It was very exciting, and I'm very thankful to Camacol, Bogota, and Cundinamarca for allowing me to learn by seeing and also by meeting a lot of people, both from the government and the private sector, who are building and dealing with these challenges. And I think I saw a lot of good people that seem like they're very passionate about what they do and they care very much about their city and their country. So I'm optimistic, and I hope that things will continue to be stable and only improve.
Okay, Mr. Poleg, thank you for participating in our podcast Metropoli, and we hope to see you soon back here in Colombia.
My pleasure. Thank you.